It's Friday, 6:28 p.m. The staff at a bank on the outskirts of a sleepy town are about to close up for the weekend, just as one more customer appears, wearing a mask, carrying a bag and a weapon, making his way straight to the teller counter. And an incredible show of athleticism and speed, he jumps from standing straight on top of the teller counter in one jump, dropping his bag down onto the counter and demanding that the staff fill his bag. Then as soon as it is, he disappears just as soon as he arrived, out of the door, never to be seen again. This wasn't his first bank robbery, this was one of 50. Across a 3-decade streak, stealing $2 million. Now to put this into perspective, that's more than John Dillinger and Bonnie and Clyde combined. Although more of a master of his craft than the previous two, his notoriety levels pale in comparison, and his criminal career coming crashing down with a chance discovery by 2 teenage boys playing in the woods in Pennsylvania. Introducing Carl Gugasian, the Friday night bank robber. Carl Gugasian was born in 1947 in Broomhall, Pennsylvania. Born to Armenian parents, with his father owning an auto repair shop. With his criminal career starting at an early age, because at the age of just 15 he was actually shot whilst trying to rob a candy store. Being sent to state youth facility for 8 months in Camp Hill, Pennsylvania, which is now current day SCI Camp Hill, before being released in 1964. In 1971, he studied for his bachelor's degree in electrical engineering at Villanova University, deciding to also enroll in the Reserve Officers Training Corps at the same time, going on to enroll in the US Army at Fort Bragg after his graduation, receiving Special Forces and Tactical Weapons training, before going back to university after the Army to earn his master's degree in Systems Analysis from the University of Pennsylvania. His next step after this was to study doctoral work in Statistics and Probability at Penn State, all of which he would take forward into his criminal career. But it was 1973 when Carl's criminal career really got going. He planned 8 mock bank robberies, but failed to execute all of them, before doing his first bank robbery in 1973 using a stolen car, which actually lacked flavor he was going to be notorious for, on to perfectly craft his MO for bank robbery. They were expertly planned, researched, and executed with military precision. In an age before Street View and major adaptation to internet, Carl used both street and topography maps to aid in his planning. You see, Carl selected his banks very carefully. They were in small towns and out in rural locations, as he discovered that those banks tend to have less security and longer response times from police. The banks were always located next to wooded areas and not far from a highway slip road, which he would utilise in making his escapes. Carl was very thorough in his preparations, being very selective and finding the perfect targets that met his criteria. Next, Carl would stake out both the banks and employees' behaviour for hours, sometimes all day, knowing all the patterns of a bank, who the managers were, who the notable staff were, and what times they arrived and left. This guy really did his homework, with some staff even commenting how professional he was, and like he knew the banks inside out. And once Carl perfected his MO, he pretty much stuck to it from then on. His robberies taking place between autumn and winter to utilise daylight savings, and the earlier darkness that comes with it. He'd enter banks as close as he could to the 6:30 closing time, with him using his statistical background to work out that this would be the perfect time to enter, with less patrons of the bank and more cash on hand to steal. Wearing a combination of either a horror mask, well, mainly a Freddy Krueger style mask, or an old man mask that snugly fit his face, and covering up as much of his body as possible, his socks tucked over his pants, his gloves tucked over his top, basically so that there was no skin showing, making it really hard for him to be identified. I mean, in some cases, staff struggled to identify what race he was, or even what eye colour he had, when the police interviewed him after the robberies. With Carl's calling card being the leap onto the teller counter, with him crashing down onto the counter, weapon drawn, in an attempt to maximise the fear and aiding their compliance, with him ordering staff to fill as much cash in his bag in the time limit available, as he gave himself a 3-minute window to try and minimise the time the police would take to respond, and hopefully he could disappear before they arrived. He actually used scent blockers on him, making it hard to be traced after he left the bank, with escape being pre-planned to perfection by Carl. What Carl would do before the robbery would be park a panel van 2 miles away. In the back of the panel van was a dirt bike. He would ride the dirt bike in and through the woods and get close to the bank, stashing it in a spot which he'd already done beforehand. Then he would run or hike the rest of the way to the bank. So on the way back it was just a matter of hiking back to the dirt bike, stashing his equipment and the money from the bank robbery, and then jumping on the bike, heading back to the panel van, load it into the back of the panel van and drive away, heading towards the nearby highway exit that he'd already pre-planned, coming back later to collect the equipment and the money, as he didn't want to get caught with them on him. But this MO was so successful for Carl, with police at the front of the bank and walking along the roadways, trying to find where he could have gone. He's already back through the woods, onto the bike and far away. He's in a different zip code by the time the police have even got to it normally. And even after 50 bank robberies, the police and FBI had absolutely no idea of the identity of a Friday night bank robber. Left no clues, no forensic evidence behind. He worked alone and didn't tell anybody what he was actually doing. He didn't spend huge amounts of extravagant money on things to draw attention to himself. He even paid taxes on the bank robbery earnings, claiming it was a gambling win and putting down his employment as a statistician and a gambler. But unfortunately nothing lasts forever, and his eventual downfall was actually brought on in 2001, when 2 teenage boys were playing in the woods in Radnor, Pennsylvania, when they stumbled across a PVC pipe inside a storm drain, with the contents of which causing the boys concern, so much so that they called the police, who came out to investigate the find. With the police finding a bunker nearby, built into the ground, an excavated hole with sides and walls built up with bricks and concrete. Inside the bunker were documents, which included a list of statistics and maths books, instructions of how to clean guns, a list of stash spots dotted out amongst New York and Pennsylvania, a list of bank surveillance notes, cache of weapons and ammo, which left local police baffled. But not one man, FBI agent Raymond Carr, thought he knew exactly who this was, as he'd been tasked with capturing the Friday night bank robber, and had been researching his crimes for the past 4 months by this stage. The stash find was the beginning of the end for Carl's criminal career, and a massive break for law enforcement. The biggest clue was a leaflet for a karate club in Drexel, Pennsylvania, which was found in the evidence hall, and after speaking of the owner of the karate club, and giving him descriptions of who they thought they were looking for, the FBI profiler's description of him being a bit of a loner and good with numbers. The karate club owner gave a few names, with one of those being Carl Gugasian, also singling Carl out as a bit of a loner, intense, and worked as a statistician, with the FBI starting surveillance on Carl straight away. The FBI actually followed of instructions left in the bunker, which left them to another stash spot. Inside, amongst other things, were 22 guns, with all of them having their serial numbers ground off, except for one with its serial number still intact. Once running the numbers, they found out that it was actually a stolen gun from Fort Bragg in the 1970s, where Carl was based with the army at the time. The police also found one of Carl's bank account containing $500,000, which led to the morning of the 7th of February 2002, when Carl was heading to the library to research his next robbery. After parking up and exiting his vehicle, he headed toward the library. It was instantly swarmed and surrounded by SWAT police officers and arrested. Even though the evidence against Carl was quite strong, it was still circumstantial, as nobody could actually pick Carl out of a lineup, or even place him at a single one of the scenes of the crimes, with Carl actually pleading not guilty in court, up until what people believe was when he heard the testimony of people that he actually put through these traumas, the victims of the robberies. Having to come face to face with them and hearing the trauma they went through and how it affected their lives, it is believed that with that and his family being onto him, he changed his plea to guilty. As Carl pretty much saw bank robbery as a victimless crime, just thinking, well, the insurance will pick up the bill, not accounting for the psychological trauma he'd actually put people through. And by the end of the trial, Carl was given a sentence of 117 years in prison, which was heavily reduced to 17 years, with Carl effectively changing sides, helping the police by taking part in a video on how to help catch bank robbers, and sharing with the police how he chose his targets, his insights into robbery, as well as joining a mathematics program inside and teaching inmates mathematics. Carl served his time and was released on the 5th of May 2017, aged 69 years old, with no information showing that he has reoffended since his release. I mean, Carl's got to be, mid-70s now? There should be not much chance of him reoffending, to be honest, but you never know. The Friday night geriatric bank robber could make it in. But anyway, I really hope he doesn't. I hope he lives out the rest of his life in peace. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Please like and subscribe. See ya.